Hi, I'm Barbara Chase, District B. I'm a public schools kid from the great state of Colorado, and my mom and dad still live in the place that I grew up in. They call it home. And I remember finally getting a much-needed shower when I was a freshman, and my oldest sister, a senior in high school, if you can believe that. Now living in the beautiful Douglas County, I have a house with 4 showers and a bathroom, or 5 bathrooms, and there's no other country on the planet that we would be able to do that in one generation except for right here in the United States. And there's no way I could have done that without a great public education system, which really is a great equalizer for everyone. I'm thankful for the public education that I had. I think it's the foundation of our country, and it's the way to experience the American dream. I've now been in Douglas County for 23 years. I'm happily married, right, honey? And I have 2 children, a 7th grader and a 9th grader here in Douglas County Schools. And as an executive of parent-teacher group since 2005, I've helped raise an incredible $500,000 net spendable dollars for our schools. And I was able to share that success and train 20 more schools here within the district, their parent-teacher groups, in best practices to help them increase their volunteer recruitment and fundraising capabilities. That experience helped me understand the current state of school funding and the priorities of parents on how funding is best spent in a fiscally responsible way. I would like to address several issues of concern tonight, including the declining assessment scores, record low teacher morale, and inaccurate budgeting. You may hear tonight from candidates cherry-picking some numbers of certain scores that have improved, but don't be fooled. Overall, achievement is down since 2009, and we've also lost our coveted accreditation with distinction honor. I'm Barbara Chase, District B.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jim Gaddis. I'm from District B, running for District B also. I have a very strong interest in education. I am a practicing surgeon. Quite honestly, I went to school, it seems like forever, but about 30 years, so I learned a bit of it from that angle. And I have 4 children. 2 are grown, and 2 are 10 and 11, and are in school now, and I toil with my wife nightly with their homework. I have noticed over the years that, in my opinion, there's been a decline in the quality of education in our country. I'm also serving as a CU regent currently, and I'll be honest with you, we're a little perplexed about the quality of some of our students matriculating in college in terms of their writing skills and math skills. I'm not saying that in my day we were any smarter, but in my day we really did focus on those core subjects. As you all know, we've really spent extensive amounts of resources on education in the last 30 years, and it's hard to see much improvement. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I decided to get involved personally, became a regent. I focused on budgeting and financing of higher education at the University of Colorado, and also on the quality of education. In particular, the quality of academic freedom and intellectual diversity on our campuses, which I think is a very important issue, and some other related issues. I've also tried to resurrect our football team, and so far we're having a little trouble, but keep tuned. I think you're getting better. My term as a regent's over in about a year. I have a few seconds left. And I am very excited to be a candidate for the Douglas County School Board. They have done a tremendous job over the last few years, and I would like to get involved and help out also. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Julie Heim. I'm running for District D here in Douglas County. I believe in public education. I think it's an amazing thing that we have in our country. I don't know about most of you, but I was raised in the public education system. My father died when I was young, and my mom was a little disconnected after that, and so I really felt like some of my teachers almost raised me. They kind of helped me along and had me go in the right direction. as I move forward in life. And so I had a special place in my heart for public education since. My children are currently, 2 of them are currently Douglas County students. One is in 6th grade, the other is in 10th grade. And then I have a son who just graduated junior last year from one of the high schools here in Douglas County. So I have some concerns with Ritter. One of the reasons we let him go is because we just felt like we couldn't continue to get a good education any longer in our high schools. So so there's that part, but I have been involved in my kids' classes and schools since before they even started school, since they were in preschool. I've been on boards, I've volunteered in the classrooms, I've gone on all of the field trips, I've done all of the things that moms do, right? And so I've seen what happens in our classrooms, and I see how policies affect our classrooms, and I think that's a really important perspective to have in the Board of Education. I'm also, I have a background as a CPA, and I audited school districts when I first got out of college, so I know a lot about school district financials. I also was the finance director of a $2 billion public entity. I took that entity from having, from being in a very dismal fiscal situation to having a clean audit opinion for the first time in its history after 1 year of being there. And I was a consultant for Deloitte Consulting, helping other public entities do the same, to turn things around, comply with laws, become fiscally responsible, but to be customer service oriented. I think I can bring a lot to the board in doing all of those things for our school district. Thank you.
Good evening, thank you for being here. My name is Judy Reynolds. I'm running for District D. I'm a mom of 3 Douglas County students. I have an elementary student, a middle school student, and a high school student. I've been involved in the district since my kids were very young, doing the normal mom things, helping in the classroom. Over the last few years, I've become involved in the SAC and the DAC, which is School Accountability Committees, and the District Accountability Committee. I also, about 4 years ago, when the district was going through some very hard fiscal times because of money that the state took back from us, got involved at the district level by starting to attend board meetings. I thought it was really important to find out why the decisions were being made that were being made. I didn't understand that as a parent. And so I went to those board meetings to learn more. Over the course of the last 4 years, that has led me to the State House to testify on education issues. That has led me to be more involved at the district level. One of the things that I've become very strong on over the course of the last 4 years is that I truly believe that every child deserves an education that is best suited to them. And that education, the people that are involved in helping that child get that education, first and foremost, are their parents. Parents are the prime decision makers for the children, and I think that that's very important, that we have input from their teachers and from the administrators and other people that work with our children, but parents are always the best deciders for their children. I hope that you guys will consider voting for me in this election. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you. I'd like to thank Platte River Academy for hosting the event, and Gary Steuben and Becky Bonner. It's not easy to put on one of these events, and can we just give them a round of applause? They do a great job here, and I know they do a great job here because 2 of my kids go here. And it was funny, Becky Bonner asked me earlier in the evening whether I was nervous at these events. I said, yeah, you're always a little nervous, of course. I said, but an interesting fact about tonight's event is not quite 24 hours ago, I was standing in that spot dressed as Julius Caesar, surrounded by about 60 third graders. I'm not really nervous anymore. So I want to introduce a couple folks. My mother and stepfather, Dave and Nancy Paul, are here, and my wife, Gwen, is in the background, and I have to introduce Amber Pethy. Only because we share carpool duty with them, and so they pick up, we drop off, and so our kids spend a lot of time together. I think it's appropriate that we meet here at a public school, and it's important to remember that charters are in fact public schools. Often they're not treated that way, they're treated as something different. And they're not. They are part of what I firmly believe in, which is choice. And choice isn't just private, choice is public as well. And we try to encourage public choice and private choice over the past 4 years, and I think we've done so with some success, particularly with respect to charters. Part of making that choice equal is treating all public school children equally, like charter children. In 2010, when we came into office, they weren't treated equally. The charter kids were receiving less funding for no particular reason other than they were receiving less funding because there was some arbitrary decision made to do that. We equalized funding among public school kids, so now a charter and a public school child receives the same amount of money. I look forward to this evening, and thank you very much for coming.
Good evening, my name is Bill Hodges, and it's a little unnerving when you look at the back and see the Stinky Shoe Club sign back in the back. Hopefully no one's referring to us on this podium. Again, I am Bill Hodges. I have 28 years experience in the private sector. The last 3 years I helped 3 guys start a financial consulting company. In 2001, I became the HR director for the Douglas County School District, and in December of 2002, I was promoted to the assistant superintendent of HR and continued in that capacity until I retired 2 years ago, July 2011. My wife is a retired elementary arts teacher from Larkspur. I have 2 grown children that graduated through the district. I have a daughter-in-law that teaches 3rd grade in the district. I have 2 grandsons who are going to an elementary school in the district, and I have 2 younger grandchildren who will attend a Highlands Ranch school someday when they become school age. So I have a very, very personal vested interest in the direction that this board takes and the success that this district manages to achieve. I believe that we need to be all-inclusive. I think the public needs to be heard. I think we need to have fiscal transparency, and I think we need to do what's best for kids, regardless of any political persuasion. That's why I'm running unaffiliated, so that when I make a decision on the board about what's best for kids, it's not tied to a political agenda at all. Thank you. I'm Bill Hodges from District E.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Megan Silverthorne, and it's great to be back here at Platte River Academy. This was the site of one of my very first forums as a candidate 4 years ago. So thank you again for hosting. This is delightful. And it's really nice to see a number of people here. I know the weather is supposed to take a turn for the worse, so let's hope we don't get stuck in that on the way out. I've been on the board for 4 years, and I'm really pleased that we've been able to dramatically expand our partnership with charter schools over that period of time. So I'm excited that Platte River has decided to host us this evening, because I'd love to talk with you about some of those things that we've been able to do. I think it's tremendous that the district has formed that kind of partnership with charters, because as some of the other folks here have said, charter schools are our public schools, they're our partners, and they have a slightly different governance structure, but they are part of our family, and I appreciate that very much. I am a product of a number of different school systems. My father was in the State Department and in the U.S. Army, so I was raised overseas, but I also attended school here in the United States, public and private, American and British, domestic and international. And I have a really broad educational experience because of that, and it's really awesome. I had an incredible experience growing up. Excuse me. I find that our community here in Douglas County is amazing. We have great teachers, we have great kids, and we have wonderful involved parents. So I feel like this is a really incredible setting for a school district to excel. And I feel like that's what we've done. We have put into place a lot of things that will move education into the future, which is something that whenever I meet with folks out in the community, they say, we really need to do this. Our education system is somewhat antiquated and overall in the United States. But here in Douglas County, we have nothing but great things. So I think there are a lot of things to talk about, and I'm looking forward to doing that with you this evening. Thank you, Megan Silverthorne.
I have figure out how to turn it on, I'm sorry. I'm Rhonda Schulte, and I'm running for District G for the Douglas County School Board, and it's so great to see all of you folks out here tonight because community is really what makes a public school system. And a public school system is so important to our community because it means economic growth, it means we can thrive, our families can thrive. It attracts new businesses here, it also attracts new families as well. My husband and I moved to Douglas County because of the great schools here, and both of our boys graduated from Douglas County high schools, and it was exciting as a parent. And if any of you have had this experience, you had to see them walk across the stage with that diploma. It was thrilling and enlightening, and everything, all the emotions all at once. But since my boys have graduated, things have changed a bit in Douglas County. You see the controversy in the headlines, the turmoil in the district. And I really don't think things are working here. And many thousands of parents don't believe it either. When you have lower graduation requirements, you have fewer teachers in the classroom, you cut resources in the classroom, that's a district that's not really working for our students. And when you have a school board that spends half of its time behind closed doors, they're not working for us as a community. And that's why I'm running for school board. I want to redirect our resources, our taxpayer dollars, back into the classroom to give our teachers the resources they need to make sure our kids are ready for college or ready for the workforce. I want to increase transparency in this district, and I want to include all of you in this whole process. You guys are the people that the school district and the school board works for. And tonight in this room, there's really not one single person here who has all of the answers for public education in Douglas County, but together as a community, we do. And I would love for you to join me. I'm Rhonda Schulte, again, candidate in District G.
This is one of the principles of applause time, so I think. So for the first question, we'll go back on the table in reverse order. So we'll start with District G and then E, B, and B. And this one will continue in alphabetical order. So Megan, you'll be the first one up on this question, which is, oh, no, you're right. That says something about my education. So the question is, has the district's current leadership attempted to push too many educational changes too quickly? What is the appropriate pace for educational and policy change in the Douglas County schools? And what would be your priorities for change if elected?
The district has actually done a wonderful job in increasing parental choice in this district, and this charter school is one example. And I think the choice of parents to decide where their kids go to school and what that curriculum might be, and the real buy-in that parents at charter schools have is wonderful. But of course, also parents want to choose neighborhood schools or online schools, or they want to maybe homeschool as well. So the district honestly has put into place many good choices, many good changes. But there are other changes perhaps where they moved a little too quickly and haven't had the amount of public buy-in that is necessary for everyone to get on board. It's not only parents, but it's also students, and it's also teachers that need to be on board and need to have the ability to speak to the school district to actually, again, have buy-in, because when you are a part of the process, then you feel like you've made that change yourself. As far as a change that I might perhaps look for if I was elected, again, the resources that have been cut from the classroom, the teachers that have been cut from the classroom, we need to reinvest those things, especially at the high school level, where we've cut the amount of time that kids actually spend in the classroom. That is very important for those kids going forward, whether they're going to college, whether they're going into the workforce. We need to reinvest in those kids and give them the best possible public education that we can.
There have been a lot of changes that have occurred in the last few years. I would submit that a lot of them are state-driven. And this is really interesting because the state has passed down a number of different requirements that every district is required to comply with. And I can cite a couple of examples right here. You know, your teacher evaluation law, that was the effectiveness of teachers is of paramount importance. And the way the state did it, they said, well, we're going to do it on this timeline and you will comply. So the district did the best it could as far as saying, we will develop our own solution here, and we'll involve hundreds of teachers while we're at it. So we're made to do that, and this year every district will have to comply with that change. And as far as a lot of the testing, there are parents that are very concerned about some of the testing that's going on. Again, there are a lot of state mandates that accompany that. So we have to change certain things that go with that. You know, your curriculum, as a lot of you may know, the state has adopted Common Core. So the district revised some of its curriculum to go along with that. A lot of people are not fans of Common Core, neither are we at the district. Our superintendent likes to call it the Common Floor. It's sort of unfortunate. But anyway, that is one of the things that we've had to do. So there are a lot of changes that are happening. I think many of them are for the better. There are some things that we have no choice but to comply with that. So I would say that there is a certain pace of change that is healthy. There's a certain pace of change that is desirable. There are some times when the pace of change is out of our hands. So I think there are a lot of great things that are happening in the district, a lot of great things that we've been able to do as far as implementing those changes. Implementation is always one of the most difficult parts of public policy. So when we go back and make changes that we can control, then we want to make sure that the feedback loop is closed and the community is solved. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go through the changes that we made, and then we can make a determination about whether or not they were made too quick. We funded charters equally with other public schools. I think that was a good one. I'd stay with that one. We allowed charters to access our bonding so that they could borrow at cheaper rates, so that you didn't have to. That was an expense that didn't cost the district anything, and frankly benefited you. We started letting charters use land that had been dedicated for public schools for their schools, so that they didn't have that startup cost, particularly if they put them in spots where we had some enrollment pressures, and that released the pressures. Well, not directly related to charters, but I mean, we're all public school parents here, most of us are. We started a pay-for-performance plan. The pay-for-performance plan this year had this result, as compared to other districts. In some neighboring districts, their least effective teacher got a 1.9% pay increase. Their most effective teacher, their pay commanding of a teacher, got a 1.9% increase. This year in Douglas County, an ineffective teacher got 0. Our most effective teacher was 8.5%. We think that we set the incentives right so that we're going to get their good teachers. And we think they're setting the incentives wrong with respect to what they're telling their really quality teachers. We did some other things too that I think needed to be done. Under the previous administration, under Bill's tenure as assistant superintendent, we were paying union leaders who spend no time in the classroom $300,000 a year to do nothing for the district. That money's now in the classroom. We've cut $1.9 million of overhead and put that money in the classroom by reducing 20 FTE. Those are changes I can't look back and say which ones would I do differently. Thank you.
Well, you ready? Okay. I do think parental choice in this district is a huge plus. Whether you're talking about alternative education, you're talking about charter education, you're talking about neighborhood schools, Cyberline, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I do think, though, that the problem this board has had is not in making policy decisions and policy changes for the better. The problem has been with implementation. Doug talks about pay for performance. I was a part of paper performance as a community rep back in 1994 and 95. And then, of course, being the assistant superintendent of HR, I directed the paper performance and its budget and so forth. And it was ready for a change. I don't disagree with that. But by their own admission, the district staff has publicly stated that this current plan had flaws and that bugs needed to be worked out. Couldn't agree with you more. So you don't pay people off of that until you finally get the bugs worked out. I would have worked it parallel until you got the problems worked out with the current pay performance plan. Doug brings up the $300K that was paid to the union that they sat around and did nothing. That is not true. I managed that budget as well. They were doing professional development for our classroom teachers. It was teachers teaching teachers. It was our best and brightest who implemented best practices, teaching our newer teachers about classroom instruction, differentiated instruction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think the evaluation system needs to be re-looked at because it's causing problems for teachers who find out after the fact, as it kept getting changed over the school year, what they were really being evaluated on. And that's not the way we treat our people with respect. So I would tell you, I don't disagree with some of the changes, but I would tell you I disagree with the way it was implemented, and that's where the real problem lies. Thank you.
So I love implementation. I'm one of those crazy people who actually likes to make things work. I just read an article by Frederick Hess, who is the same gentleman who wrote the white paper about Douglas County being one of the most interesting districts in the country right now. And interestingly enough, one of the things I just read today, it's coincidental that this was a question. Interestingly enough, he feels like the big failure in the reform effort is implementation. That people are so excited about legislative changes that that's all they do is change legislation. And that we don't actually see anything in the classroom. That's been my complaint about the situation that we're in. I hear all of these great ideas. I believe we need to change the way we educate children. I believe that they are living in a different time than when we were educated, and we must keep up with that. However, if, sorry, I was feeling I was going to fall in my chair. However, if we don't implement properly, we can't possibly make that happen in the classroom. We talk a lot about good things, but I actually haven't seen any of them in the classroom. And I would ask all of you to ask yourselves and ask your neighbors and friends, if you don't have children yourself, whether or not they're seeing positive things happening in the classrooms for our children. Are our scores increasing? Are they being educated more than they were 3 or 4 years ago? And the answer is no. I'm seeing a decline in the classrooms, and I spend a lot of time in the classrooms. So that's one piece of the implementation part. Also, we've already heard about the pay for performance program, but the salary band thing that was created was also an issue because it was based on flawed information, in my opinion. And then what it does is it pits teachers against one another, doesn't it? We already have a market, a supply and demand market in our state, in our metro area. By competing with other school districts, we pay less right now than others, so we have a problem with that. But then to stratify and tell people that they're worth more or less than another is not a healthy way to build trust in the organization. We should be considering, all this technology, clearly I was
Yes, there's been a tremendous amount of change in the district over the last few years. Some of that is driven by the district, some of that's been driven by the state and by state law. What I think that the district has tried to do is to take the things, especially that have been driven from the outside, to make them their own and to make them the things that will work best for our community. Now, there were some issues with the implementation of the pay for performance plan. That pay for performance plan, in my understanding, is being reviewed, is being revised, issues are being addressed. I think that any time we do something new, we have to understand that it's not going to be perfect. But what we have to make sure that we do when we start a new plan or a new program or a new way of doing things is that needs to be reviewed. It needs to be studied, and we need to look at it and make the changes that are necessary to make it better and to make it work. Some of the things that I really believe in that the district has done over the last few years are things like site-based budgeting and hiring. Those things are happening in our individual schools so that the people that are closest to our children are making the decisions about what the money's being spent on and who is working with our children. Now, the district has opened up the open enrollment window over the last few years, so that we have a much greater opportunity if we're interested in putting a child into a different school program to do that. You don't have the window that was typically from about Thanksgiving until Christmas when all of us are very busy and we miss it. I also think that the other thing that has happened and just happened over the course of the last year is we applied for a waiver to the state to be able to do our charter review applications in the spring instead of in the fall, giving the people that are organizing those schools more opportunity to get that done.
Barbara, and then
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you do a restart? I'm sorry about that.
Kind of Star Trek, you're like, I should start singing a song. Frightening. In regard to change, I actually always describe myself as a change agent. I sell technology for a living, so I'm constantly on the move and learning, and I love it. And so I agree with what Doug has said. There are a lot of great changes that the district has done, and the equitable funding for charter schools, well, thank goodness. And how very cool that you guys now are getting transportation. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what the busing, or if it's here yet at Platte River, but I just met with Aspen View Academy, their board this morning, and really exciting what the district has done to allow that for two working parents like my husband and myself. It makes that choice more available, and that is so cool. I think that's our job as a district. In regard to many changes, then I also agree with Bill and Julie and Wanda that there needs to be some thought, and sometimes you get so excited with change that maybe things go a little quickly. So my understanding is that we spent $85,000 for a consultant to kind of help us understand that pay for performance and how to implement it. And they said, no, you are not ready for prime time yet. Do not tie the teacher salaries to this. But the board went forward with that anyway. The result of that is over the last 2 years, we've lost 2/3 of our principals in our district. Let me say that again, 2/3. So being in sales, I think it's more powerful to watch what people do versus listen to what they say. So when you have 2/3 of your heads of your schools leave, they're going to take the teachers with them, which is exactly what they are doing and have done. And so with that talent hard to find, we want to make sure that the teachers and the administration and the buildings are involved in that change.
I'll have to put this in my pocket, yes. Good change cannot come too fast. And the good change that has occurred has been, in my view, the implementation of the pay for performance for teachers. Because after all, we really put our kids first. The most important element in their education is a teacher. I can speak from personal experience that I've had kids of my own that have ended up in classes where the teacher isn't inspiring them, isn't creating an eager learner. That's what this is all about, particularly in the younger years. We want our kids to thirst for knowledge. We want them to look forward to the intellectual interchange with their teacher and with others. And it is such a special talent that a teacher has that can do that for those kids. We want those teachers here at this school. I suspect the reason many of you brought your children to this particular school is that's what's going on here. We want that for every kid in the entire district. How do you get that? Well, you don't go by the old union way of doing it, which is seniority only. It depends on how long you've been a teacher, that's what you get paid. There have not been so many teachers leaving the district. As a matter of fact, the turnover has been about 8%. That's been pretty steady for 4 or 5 years. But did you know this? that for every position available, well, let me say it another way, for the 400 positions that have come available in the last few years, we've had 14,000 applicants. These are people from all over the country who want to come and be part of this exciting experience here in the Douglas County School District. This district is leading the nation in school reform. Please vote for us who want to continue that activity. Otherwise, it will be dismantled overnight. Thank you.
Thank you all. For the second question, we'll start with District E, and we'll go in reverse order. So, Bill and and so we'll go E, D, B, and then end on this question with District G. And Jim's comment provides a segue into this question, which is about employee morale in the district and whether you feel there's a morale problem, and so what are its sources, and do you believe there needs to be a formal relationship between the district and the teachers union in order for the district to operate successfully? So, Bill.
Do I think there's a morale problem? Absolutely. Absolutely. How do I know that? Well, it isn't because the board or the district has done a survey so that we could get that input and see how they felt. So the only way you can find out this information is by word of mouth and talking to people. And obviously, my wife having been a school teacher, my daughter-in-law is a school teacher, we have a wide network of talking to folks, parents, students, as well as teachers, about how they feel they are being treated. They feel disrespected, they feel unheard, and they're living in fear for their job, and that isn't the atmosphere that I would implement or encourage if I were on the board. With regard to the union, teachers have a right to belong to the union and pay out of their own salary dues to be in that union, and that's what they've done. In fact, 60% of the teachers belong to this federation, but they have no voice at the table with the board or the district. Where I differ is that you can't ignore 60% of these teachers without a voice. So yes, I would invite them to the table. Do they have to be a union to come there? Doesn't make any difference to me. The real question is, there's a difference between having a union and having a collective bargaining agreement. We're not talking about a collective bargaining agreement. What I'm talking about is bringing all employee groups to the table to talk about their issues and concerns so that together, through a partnership and collaboration, we can move this district forward.
Thank you. If there was a morale problem, I think that we would look at the numbers. You'd want to look at the turnover. The average in the district over the past 3 years that I've been on the board, that we've had these surveys, is about 11.5% turnover. During Bill's tenure, it was 12.5%. Now, clearly, if you want to have an example of where there could have been a morale problem, I think it would have been during that time. But I think you also need to look at what we're coming out of and some of the issues that we had faced in 2009, which was the recession, and that required pretty deep cuts. I think that probably did have an impact on some teachers. But we do know from a state survey that teachers are more happy now than they've been previously over the past 2 years. The TEL survey indicates greater teacher satisfaction. The pay-for-performance system, I think, tells teachers something. It tells them that we value them and we value the work that they do, and we're going to reward and recognize that work. The teachers' union issue is really with respect to the teachers, is the teachers' union wasn't representing the teachers. Bill likes to say that the $300,000 we were paying was for professional development, teacher to teacher. We pulled the teachers' unions' tax returns, which indicates how much they spend on professional development. While they collected $1.3 million from their members, the sum of their commitment to their members was spending $4,900 on professional development for their own members. that is not a union we're going to recognize, that we're going to bargain with, because they're not recognizing the teachers. Under Bill's watch, when we were negotiating with the union, we paid the union negotiator $7,500. Now, who was representing the teachers' interests there? It wasn't the union, because they were getting paid by the district. We think the union leadership did not do the job it needed to do to represent the teachers. We refused to sign a collective bargaining agreement with them, and that allowed us to put more money back in the classroom and less money back into the union organizers' pockets. Thank you.
You can help us here,
Is there a morale problem in the district? Well, I'm sure for some individuals there probably are. Anytime you're a large organization with 6,000 employees, 3,000 of those are teachers. There's always going to be some people that are unhappy, especially when there's significant change going on in the district. You know, I believe that what we're doing is moving in the right direction. I believe that what we're doing is unique in public education. Teachers are used to having a contract negotiated for them by a union. They are not used to being in a position where their pay is dependent, or their increases in pay are dependent on their performance, on their individual performance. And I believe that that's a good thing. That's how we get great teachers in the classroom, is by those teachers being motivated to do better. And do better for themselves and for our children. I think that that's really important. As far as the union is concerned, I was one of the people that helped to pass around petitions in order to ask the district to open negotiations to the public. I felt as a parent and a taxpayer it was very important that that process happened in the public, that we got to have an opportunity to understand what was being negotiated for with our public dollars. I'm not somebody who believes that the union should be sitting at the negotiating table. I do believe that if teachers want to join the union for their own personal reasons, as a professional organizations or other benefits that they might get from the union, that is entirely their prerogative.
I can get settled first so I don't fall down. Actually, there's little cracks, just so you know. I was distracted because there are little cracks back here and one of my heels was getting stuck in one. So is there an employee morale problem at the district? I want to address that in a second, but first I want to go back to something that Mr. Benevento said. He said that they pulled the union's financial statements and only $6,900, I think you said, was recorded for professional development. That sort of makes sense that the district was paying for that. So I wouldn't expect there to be a professional development expenditure on their financial statements or their tax returns. So that is just the accountant in me wanting to say that. But so is there an employee morale problem? Absolutely there is. And why is that important to everyone in this room? Because even though the charter schools do not have to comply with the same structure for evaluations and teachers' pay, you will probably have to deal with that when your children go to high school, because we clearly don't have enough charter schools to help the kids continue in charter schools and high school. So if you are in a charter school now, you're not feeling this necessarily, but let me tell you, from a district level, it's a big issue. I spent a lot of time in my kids' schools trying to actually implement change at the school level, and I talk to teachers all the time, and they're very honest in saying that they really are unhappy with their working environment. Now, does that have to do with the union or not? I don't think so. I don't think it has anything to do with the union. It has to do with that they don't feel safe in their environment, they don't feel respected, and they don't feel like they have the opportunity to provide students the best they possibly can in the classroom. And that's what we need to bring back. We need to give them the opportunity to be successful in their own classrooms. We can do that by continuing to pay for performance. Not a single teacher I've ever spoken to has said they don't want pay for performance. They do want pay for performance. They've had pay for performance for many years before this. What they do want is a fair evaluation system on which that is based. We've heard that there's a flawed system out there, and we need to fix that. As far as the union's concerned, there's a totally different thing. People can belong to the union. Collective bargaining agreement is what actually is the contract with the district. I don't think that's necessary as long as we provide a good environment for our teachers to instruct our kids in. Thank you.
Thank you. out the obvious. I think when there is change, or some folks aren't going to be happy with it. And, they have the right to stay or leave. That's their choice. I think that it's been overstated, this morale problem. I'm not in the schools much, but I have talked to a number of people that have an opposite opinion. And that has not been objectively measured. I think it should be. I think we should have a survey mechanism in place so that we can understand well how our teachers are feeling about their professional environment they're in. We want to make it the best possible for them, but we also want to put our students first. And I repeat what I've already said, it's about the students, it's not about the teachers. We want a great teacher in every classroom. So, when we have a great teacher, we reward that person. When we have a teacher that's not working so hard, maybe that teacher shouldn't be rewarded. We also will have an ample number of applicants to fill in positions that become available who are going to be highly motivated to be in this kind of a school district. I'm a product of a performance system. You want your surgeon, somebody that just, got by? No. And I'm guaranteed you don't make it. You don't make it to that level if you're not a performance person. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the healthy way of proceeding. That's what's best for our children. Thank you.
Hi, I agree. Selling software, like I said, I get fired if I don't sell enough software. It'd be great to have a union. Being from business, I don't understand the union, but I also could never be around and teach children all day, day in and day out. So thank goodness that there's different personalities to be able to put in those roles to be successful. And I also agree with Dr. Geddes. My slogan is actually putting kids first. I couldn't agree more. And in order to put kids first, the biggest impact we can have to our kids is the teacher themselves. So in that, I am running for this position because I had so many teachers ask me and beg me to run for this position because they were not happy with what was going on in the district. I agree with Julie that hey, that's great. If they want to belong to the union, happy day. If they want to belong to the NRA, happy day. That is your decision. That's your money. It's the collective bargaining agreement that really needs to be under discussion. And I honestly, I don't have enough information to say that that's necessary or not. But I think my job here is not to dictate or bully. It is to listen and collaborate. And I also agree with Dr. Geddes that yes, let's get that survey back and really understand what they want. And then we'll be able to understand what's real. Because yes, we've had pay for performance since the 90s. It's nothing new. This implementation of it is new, and as Bill said, did need to be upgraded. And I will say, I have from a personal perspective, my cousin just graduated with his teaching certificate from University of Phoenix, and they said, interview anywhere except for Douglas County, only if you're desperate for a job. That's when you should interview at Douglas County. That was Harvard, and that's May, just did this year.
So, again,
You said you hadn't saw it.
I should have said I hope
Is there an employee morale problem? I think there's two different levels of employee satisfaction that have been examined. One is at the school level. And at the school level, teachers very clearly say they are happy with their environment, they love their school environment, and they love their school leadership. But with that being said, the pace of change is going on at the district level, the things that are happening overall, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. There's people with questions, there's people that have heard a lot of different things, and they don't know exactly what to believe or what to think. So I think that is impacting some of the thoughts that people are having out there. we are sending signals to them that says, look, we want to value you as a professional. We want to have you here as part of our district family and reward you for the teacher quality that you display in front of the kids. We want to have the best possible teacher in front of the kids. And so to us, that is what matters the most. And as far as the union goes, the union is an organization that's obviously made up of teachers. And so they select their own leadership and they do their own thing. And of course, any teacher can choose to belong to the union. That's one of the great things about this country is freedom of association. So teachers can choose to belong to the union, and the district can choose how it wants to have those dealings with that union. So there have been a lot of conversations about the particular happenings that have happened in the past year around that organization. But I do want to say that I do not believe that there needs to be a union in order for the district to be successful. There are 140 odd school districts in Colorado with no collective bargaining agreement, and I would not say that we have 140 failing districts in this state. So I would say that how do you examine a relationship with the union, and what does that look like? I don't think it's necessary for the district to be successful. Thank you.
I definitely think there is a morale problem that is very detrimental to this district currently in Douglas County, because almost 460 teachers left the district since last year. At my youngest son high school, Chaparral, 32 teachers left, and a couple left after school started, including the Chinese teacher. And Ron Peterson, who was a longtime principal and helped my youngest get through school and walk across that stage with a diploma in his hand, left and went to Cherry Creek. There was one elementary school here in Highlands Ranch that lost every one of its third grade teachers except for one. One is still there at the beginning of this school year. So yes, I think there is definitely a problem. But one of the questions really you have to ask yourself about the pay for performance plan is, how is the district paying for it? 2 years ago, voters were asked, do you want to pay for a pay for performance plan? Can we raise your taxes? Can we put $10 billion into a pay for performance plan? And you, as taxpayers and voters, said no. So the question, and I've asked it, how is this district paying for that? Is it through the cuts to the classroom, cutting teachers, cutting resources, cutting time the kids spend in class? I don't know, because I haven't had my question answered yet. As for the union question, I sit on the Parker South Metro Fire Board, and because we respect our firefighters who each and every day protect our homes and our properties and our lives, we do sit down and speak with them. We don't do it in a collective bargaining agreement, though. What we have rather, is a memorandum of agreement. Basically, we agree we need to talk. There's no collective bargaining, there's no bad union there, but we respect our firefighters like we should respect our teachers. So, like members of the community we need to sit down and talk to as board members, we need to sit down and talk with our teachers, because they're the ones that are making our kids what they are. They're the ones that are making this a public school district.
For this third question, we'll start with District D, and we'll go in alphabetical order. Several of you have already referenced charter schools and choice in your comments, which is great considering who's hosting us tonight. And this third question allows you to elaborate on that. Charter schools and other choice options continue to expand in the district. Do you think that's good for the district? Is it being done in the right way? And what future choice options are important to you? What would you advocate for on the board?
So as far as choice and how it exists here in the county, I think it's amazing. I think we do great things for kids here. We have so many options for our students. One of the problems I have, though, is the access to those options. Barbara mentioned earlier there's beginning to be some busing available, but my husband and I both work, only since we started paying for our son's college. I was staying home before that. But we don't have the option of taking our children to a charter school or a magnet school, because we both work and we don't have any transportation for them to get there. So one of the things I'd like to propose is that we look at a transportation situation. Now, will that be fully funded by the district? Likely not, I'm guessing we don't have enough money to do that, but let's look for some partnerships out there and try to get access to all of the choices for students. I also believe really strongly, and again, because you'll be affected by this in high school, that we provide options within a school so that kids can learn in different ways. I know that my three children learn very differently, and I think it's really important for us to look at and focus on different ways to teach our kids. But let's do that within a school so that kids don't feel like they have to go, 30 miles away to go to a specific school. My children's high school is piloting a project-based learning environment that I've been working with them on for the last 2 years. It's a great and wonderful thing. The cool thing is they're piloting it, and it's just a portion of the school. So if kids don't do well in that environment, they can choose to go to a more traditional setting. That's where I would love to see us get to in this district. I'd like to see us all have choice and have access to that choice. And so one of the things I would do in the future is continue to look for options. I would make sure that we are making selections on charter schools somewhat based on geography, because if not, we are going to hurt all of our schools, our charter and our public schools, if we're taking students away from schools, if we're not positioning charters properly. And then finally, I do not support the school choice program where private dollars are used for, public funds are used for private schools. Thank you.
I believe choice is one of the things that has made our district great. We have lots of options. It's really important to me as a parent that I have options for my children. My children are currently in neighborhood schools. However, I've taken advantage of the online school for something that my child needed for a couple of years. And so she was a part-time student in the online school. I currently have children that are in their neighborhood schools, and I currently have children that are open enrolled. I think that it's one of the most important things about choice is that we make sure that our community understands what choices are available to them, and that they understand where those choices are and the process for being able to participate in those choices. For example, I know there's been a lot of discussion about high school programs and access to programs. Well, we want our kids to be ready to go to college if they are college bound, but if they're not college bound, we also need to make sure that parents and students are aware of all of the programs that are offered in our high school that are career and technical oriented. And I think that that's something that we need to really work on and do a better job at. I believe that with charter schools are parent-driven schools. We know that charter schools are schools that parents want in our community. And so we want to make sure that, again, that process is clear, that process is available, and that people understand what their options are for those schools.
I agree with both of them. So I think we've had choice since the 90s in Douglas County, and this current board has continued to build on that. Well, how cool is that? So as a parent, you do have more choices and decisions, so awesome. Nothing I would change there. I also agree with Julie and Judy in regard to what's the choice within. So what are the different learning styles? Do we have craftsmen and different programs like that for different kids, so that there's choice within the building. So that's the only thing I would add.
I think the charter schools are great, and one of the tremendous improvements in education in this county. I do think there should be more charter schools. There's long waiting lists for most of them, and parents that don't get their kids in are being denied that choice. So as the population growth occurs in certain areas of the county, I would favor a charter school being built there if there's a support from the parents in that area to get that done. As far as the voucher system, I'll just use that word. I'm very much in favor of a voucher system, because the parent knows his or her child best. And there are children that will do better and flourish in a private school. I would like to see everybody in this room, every parent in our county have the resources to send their kid to private school if that's what they think is best for their kid. Now, the way the pilot study was formulated, about 75% of the funding in the district would be given to the parent for their child to go to a private school. That leaves 25% behind. So there would even be an increased revenue for the kids that stay within the neighborhood schools to improve their quality of education. Perhaps the teacher-student ratios could be improved. So, keep an open mind about that. It doesn't necessarily, in fact, I say it does not detract the quality of the traditional neighborhood school, but I think it'll add to the quality. Just like charter schools have added to the quality of students going here, but also in the neighborhood schools, it's added to their quality. It's taken some of the overload off of those schools and allowed a better teacher-student ratio, and it's all good. If I have any time left, I don't. So I've got another point I want to make. Thank you.
And then we'll go around the corner to District G and around the.
Sorry,
Choice is a very important part of being a parent. My older son needed a choice when he was at Chaparral for a couple of years, and then he finished up at DCO, one of the great alternative schools in the district, because he needed just a little extra help from what he was getting at Chaparral. Well, Chaparral was great for my younger kid. All kids have different learning styles, and everyone, you have your average kid, your overachiever, your underachiever, and so kids are kids, and you never know what you're going to end up with when they're born, quite actually. But there is, some caution that we need to take going forward, because oversaturation, anyone in business knows, is a bad thing. You don't put Starbucks on every corner. You don't put a Baskin-Robbins on every corner. Baskin-Robbins only offers 31 flavors of ice cream. So we need to be very careful with where we place more charter schools, where we expand as a district. And we need to always keep in mind what parents want. If parents want another charter school and we have the funding and we have the support to put another charter school in an area, yes, let's do it. But we also need to keep in mind, of course, neighborhood schools. I've been talking with people as I've been out knocking on doors for this election, and I've talked to several neighborhood school parents who love their neighborhood school because they love the fact that they can walk 2 blocks down the street and then be in the class, and that they can play with the kids in the neighborhood, they all know each other, and they love that. And they want to continue to have that choice. And in fact, some of them are not in favor of the district's latest plan to make many neighborhood schools niche schools, where they have to choose sort of a specialty. They just want a neighborhood school where all the kids in the area can go, where all the kids, again, know each other, and they have that sense of community. So choice is good, choice is great. We need to be careful going forward with what kind of choices we make as a district. We always need, of course, to afford choices to parents, but again, oversaturation does not serve us well.
Well, this is something I'm really excited about. I talked at the beginning about how we've expanded our partnership with charter schools. I want to tell you a little bit about that, take this opportunity to do that. Is it a good thing for the district that the choices have expanded for parents? Yes. I just want to make sure people understand that no school is required to choose a niche or anything like that. It's because they wish to do so. As far as what we've done with charters, we've equalized the per pupil revenue for charter school kids. State statute allows us to hold back 5% for overhead expenditures. We don't do that. The levy override and bond dollars, we put that on the election. If the 2011 election were to have been successful, then we would have shared that money with the charter schools. We could have charged the charters to be part of that ballot measure. We did not. As far as charter applications and renewals, it's really exciting. We have partnered with our charter schools to make sure that we have a good timeline for what that looks like. We moved it back so we make sure that we have quality charter schools. It's in everybody's best interest that our charters are successful. There are a lot of rules that go along with that. We prefer to partner with our charter schools before we do all of that. Location, or we have collaboration and incentives for our location for charter schools. leases. We lease existing district land where it's appropriate. If charter schools choose to locate where we ask them to, then we provide incentives for them to do that. You know, charter schools can locate anywhere as part of state statute. They're allowed to do that. But we prefer them to locate in a place where it's advantageous to the district, so we can provide incentives for them to do that. Certificates of participation. A certificate of participation is a funding instrument that's not a bond, but it's a way for charters to take advantage of district creditworthiness. And so we didn't even have a policy on this for charter schools before 2012. So that's really exciting for us that we've been able to extend that partnership to our charter schools. Purchase services. The charters can choose to contract with the district for services. The district does not have to provide that. We chose to do that. And we chose to do that at cost instead of at the rate that's specified by state statute. So I know I'm running out of time here, but I'm really, really excited about all the great things we've been able to do with charter schools. So thanks for listening.
Thank you. It's kind of interesting to listen to how some folks think the charters arrived, because it's like you wake up one morning where there used to be an empty field, somebody's dropped a school, and all the kids are sort of going there. And that's not the way it works. And we have a Ben Franklin mom here tonight that I was talking to earlier. She can tell you it's hard. You know, this idea of oversaturation is not accurate, because you've got to actually show up and show that there's a demand for the school. What charter schools do is access the market. They go in and they say, you know, we are parents who want to start a school, and we are going to see if there's other parents who want to start a school with us because we want a certain aspect of education that we don't believe that we're getting, and we're going to go ahead and start a charter. And the first thing they have to do is show that there's interest. And it's hard. They've got to get the property, they've got to manage the construction, they've got to get the enrollment, they've got to go through the Board of Education. And so I think that we need exactly as many charters as parents can get enrollment for. Now, not more, not less. And over the last 4 years, what we've tried to do is to meet that demand. And that's why I think it was like 7,000 new charter kids, 5 new charter schools. So I sort of bring that same philosophy to every other aspect of choice that we have in the district. You know, 20 years ago, if you had mentioned online education to somebody, they would have rolled their eyes. They said, what? What is online? Now we have a rigorous online education program. You've got to keep an open mind to changes in technology and to changes that are structural changes that would benefit kids. Because ultimately, parents are the best decision makers for their kids. It's not 7 people sitting in Castle Rock. It is parents. So our job is to sort of figure out what choices they're looking for and then try to meet that demand. And it's very simple. And all this other sort of talk is sort of talking around it. It's about you. It's not about what we want. Thanks.
I have been involved with charter application approvals when I was the assistant superintendent of HR, whether I reviewed the charter apps that came in or some of my staff did. So I'm very familiar with the direction charter schools want to go into, the type of curriculum they want to implement, what their financials look like, what their personnel policies look like, from termination to dismissal to salary ban, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very familiar with the whole charter school application process and totally support it. What I want to read to you very, very quickly is we were at a forum where we had some charter parents approach us about we as new candidates for the board and what our position was about charter schools. And we published a letter that's on our website dated September 29th, and I'll read through it very, very quickly. We want to provide equitable funding between charter and neighborhood schools, with charter schools continuing to receive 100% of the per pupil revenue provided to DCSD for students in charter schools. Include charter schools in the mill levy override at the same rate as our neighborhood schools. Establish a district or board committee to work on bridging the communication gap and helping neighborhood and charter school families to better understand everyone's values and perspectives. And finally, commit to open, honest, and transparent dialogue and collaboration with the whole school community, as we are all critical to making Douglas County strong. We firmly believe charters have a very valuable, important place in this school district, and we want to see it continue. Thank you.
So for this fourth question, we'll start with Mr. B. And and kind of go around the table and end up with District B. And this question also continues something some of you have raised, and that is the steps that have been taken to adjust funding for district charters. And so the question asks you to expand on that as to whether you think additional steps need to be taken to provide equitable funding for the district's charter. So we'll start with Jim.
My understanding at this point in time is funding very similar for the neighborhood schools and charter schools. The school district passes through an equivalent amount of revenue per student to the charter school that it has it uses for its own students. In addition to that, there's a mill levy that the county provides that is also equally distributed. That's my understanding. But I'm not currently a director, so I'm not sure I'm familiar with all the fine detail. I want to go back to another controversy that was, I thought was part of this debate at this point, and that is about the choice issue, the paper performance issue. I may have sounded a little harsh on the teachers. They are our greatest assets. They are what make this school great. They are what make our district great. And in that light, I agree wholeheartedly that they should be an integral part of any conversation that involves changes in their professional environment. And I think that that has been done to a point and perhaps can be improved upon. But the flying ointment, if you will, of paper for performance is how do you assess a teacher's quality? And the teachers ought to tell us that. I can tell you this, and in my profession, the doctors tell each other who's doing well and who's not. Because we're the only ones that know, really, who's doing well and who's not. And we're very, very unkind to each other at times, quite frankly. The teachers have got to do this. They've got to own this. And I know there's been a lot of, friction perhaps, but that's to be expected when you're making such a large change in how things are done. But it is what gets the job done. It's what accumulates the teachers we need in our school district to teach our kids and give them the best education they can have, and that's what they deserve.
Barbara, on charter funding.
Oops, I'm sorry. Am I on? Okay, sorry. Bill already read the letter that Bill Hodges, myself, Julie Kine, and Rhonda Schultein signed. And as he stated, we have committed to provide equitable funding. So we are absolutely passionate about that. And if there's any fears, I want to take that away. Charter is incredibly important, and parents do need to be able to understand, hey, I have control of this choice, and I want to make sure that the funding with my tax dollars I feel is equitable. So, and I agree with Jim, I'm not a director, so I don't know all the nitty-gritty, and we want to make sure. The only thing that might not be equitable, it might be this transportation deal. So I would want to understand that more, and if that's something Platte River wants and other charters want to add, then great. Let's do that so we can continue to provide those options for the teachers, or for the families. Thank you.
So then we'll come around to G on this question and start. Charter funding does more need to be.
The first question actually that was listed on the sheet are charter schools funded equitably? And if you look at the state of Colorado, I would probably say no. If you look at Douglas County, I would say we're doing a much better job. But I think we've been able, like I mentioned a minute ago, we've been able to expand our partnership dramatically. One thing that I haven't heard mentioned was bond funding. One of the things that we did in the bond election in 2011 was include the charter schools in that. And that's something that I would do again in the future, to
think that resources for capital has been a challenge for every school, whether it's a neighborhood school or a charter school. And I think that's something that we could all stand to shore up a little bit. And our charter schools are part of our family. They're equal partners with us. So I think that's extremely important. You hear a lot of talk out there about how because charter schools have a certain level of autonomy, then they should make greater sacrifices. And I would rather talk more collaboratively about that. I would rather say, look, there is equitable versus equal, but I don't think anybody in the charter community is demanding equality. They want equity. And that's what I've heard in speaking with charter parents, and I definitely believe that. So what I would like to do, I think, is continue to move forward with all of the things that we've been able to do to expand that partnership and continue to increase the level of cooperation that we've had. What opportunities can the district provide for charter schools and expansion of existing charter schools? We've seen both of those things happen in the last 4 years, and it's been incredible to watch what's going on. I attended the Aspen View Academy opening a few weeks ago, and you talk about something that came out of a school that dropped out of the sky. That's what it seemed like, and that it was really fantastic. So yes, I'd like to pursue further avenues. Thank you.
Again, charter schools are one of the choice that we have in the district, along with the 3 other candidates. So I encourage you, if you'd like a copy of this letter that we all signed, we do have some copies that we can make available. And, as a candidate myself, I would pledge to continue to be working with charter schools. I don't have the position right now as a director on the school board, so perhaps not as much knowledge as other folks here, but one thing I can promise you as a school board director is that I will listen to you. And if you have problems, if you have challenges, if you have something that you want to talk to me about, I would be there to hear them. We want to continue the funding that is currently in place. If there is a better way for us to fund charter schools, a better way for us to work together, I want to hear about that as well. We did talk at a parent forum about a week or so ago. Some candidates were there to speak to some parents. And one gentleman from American Academy, the campus in Parker, was there. And he described to us that he has just worked out some kind of deal with the district to give them some kind of transportation for the children, which seems to be a point for charter schools and something that I think a lot of parents might like, because while you love your school and you love bringing your kids here every day, I remember taking my kids to Chaparral and I didn't like to be in that long line trying to drop off my kid. It took forever, and it was like I'm running late for work. So if we can get kids to where they need to be, make it a better choice for you, that you can drop your kid off at the bus stop, they can get to the school of their choice. That makes us work better as a district. It helps you work better as a parent, helps you get to work on time, and honestly takes a lot of stress out of the day. We gotta admit that.
As I mentioned before in the letter in the previous question, well, first we would continue the 100% per pupil funding. We would continue the mill levy participation, and that's not going to change. I do know the bond issue for the capital, for the building, is a problem for charter schools. And I think we have to continue to look at that, as Megan said, that if we were going to issue another bond election to the voters, that we figure out how we can best get charters to participate in that. That said, about those 3 issues, even knowing about charters as I did when I was the assistant soup and reviewing the applications and so forth, I'm sure there are other funding issues that we need to talk about. And that was part of our letter that we submitted for the district voters to see, and that is, what other funding issues are causing problems for you, and let's get to the table and talk about those. What the problem is, what the resolution is there a win-win here for the district so that we can help the charters move forward with some of their funding issues.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks. I think Megan makes a good point with respect to the bonding, and that's something that we've included and we want to do again. The capital issue is important one for the charters. We equalized in 2010 the mill levy funding, which is it was unclear exactly why charters were included in the first place, because when I was telling the sort of alpha charter mom, Danelle Rosenberg, earlier today, that, you know, what our obligation to you has not to be do more, but to do equal, because they're all public school kids. And that's important for us, and we need to continue to work on that. There are some areas that we continue to work on, and working with Dr. Stupid, among others, to sort of improve that equity. Is recently, this past year, on funding of special ed students. We used to charge the district for that and contract with them. And the charters came to us and said, well, we think we can do it better. And they did. And they saved themselves some money, and they saved the district some money. And those are the areas we need to continue to work on. But I do want to go back to the issue of, you know, we need to do that based upon the charters that are in demand and the parents who want to set them up. You know, we need to not sort of say we have enough charters in any particular area, but we need to sort of meet the demand that the parents have for charters. That, along with creating equity in funding, creating equity in contracting, and creating equity in capital, I think we'll ensure that we have healthy choices, that we have the choices that are going to work for everybody and are going to work for charters and public schools and to some extent, as we've shown with an option certificate program, private schools as well. Thank you.
Judith, and then
Well, as it's been stated, you know, our charters now share in our mill. That's something that this board did shortly after they came into office 4 years ago, is they made sure that that happened. You know, according to the state law, there's 5% that can be held back by the district from the charter schools. Douglas County obviously does not do that. I think that's great. The other thing that has happened is that the district has also, when charters buy services from the district, they've done that at a cost, to the cost of their services, not it's what the state formula says they might possibly be able to charge for those things. And the district has been very transparent in their interactions with the charter schools and what they're charging, what services they're charging for, what services that they're providing. Obviously, that's something that needs to continue. I think what I would do as a board member with the charter schools is make sure that I work with the charter schools, with the charter boards, and with the leaderships in the schools to make sure that we have a line of communication and that we're finding out what their needs are, especially in regard to facilities, because I believe that that's probably getting to be an issue. We've got a significant number of charter schools in our district, and several of them have been around for quite a number of years. So just like our neighborhood schools, as the building ages, you find that there are things that need to be taken care of. So I think that it's really important that that's something that becomes part of that conversation. I think that, you know, as a board member, we have to work with those charter school boards and leadership in order to find out what's the best way to help to implement the things that they require.
One of the things that I have found, I have a lot of friends who have children in charter schools, and then they move on to the public high schools. And one of the things I found is there's this weird sort of us and them mentality, and it's really frustrating to me. So I hate all this talk about charter and neighborhood schools. We're all public schools, and we all should be working together and sharing information and funding so that we have the best opportunity for all kids. When we keep talking about having the best opportunity for all kids, that means giving them choices and equitable choices. And so for once in my life, I don't want to talk about funding so much. I love to talk about funding usually, but I really want to talk more about how we work together and we use funds together and we move forward together to provide the best opportunities. Rather than competing against one another, why aren't we sharing our great ideas with one another? Why are we not showing your charter schools have wonderful opportunities to waive some of the requirements that neighborhood schools currently have? I don't know if you all know, but we actually in Colorado have an innovative and pilot school program where the neighborhood schools could do the same, but we've not yet been supported by our
our district to move forward and ask for that. So I'd like for us to work together and have you talk to us about how we can help neighborhood schools and charter schools do wonderful and amazing things for kids. And as far as mill levy, I'm not going to talk about all that other funding stuff because we've all, we read the letter and everything. I believe we will continue funding, if not improve it. We will do all we can to make everyone successful. This isn't about us and them, it's about all of us together, educating kids in the best way we possibly can. So with that said too, the only other thing is I believe that charter schools, most of the charter schools were around before, around 2008, right? So your school was here in 1997, or are you before? Yeah. So while this board has brought a couple of additional, 4 I think, additional charter schools on board, we had that before. And we also shared mill levies before too. There were some schools that did not get the mill levies because they were not in existence at the time that the last mill levy was passed. Thank you.
So for this last question, we'll start with District B and work our way down the table. And the question is this: Douglas County has seen a high level of political party, union, and citizen group involvement in school issues. Please talk about to what extent you think that's been a healthy development for the district, and to what extent has it created or exacerbated divisions in the district. So again, we'll start with G, and we'll start with Ron.
It's always exciting to see when citizens get involved in any kind of process, because this is a community. And this is your school district, so you have a place here, whether you're a student, teacher, taxpayer, parent, whatever. You have a place and you have a voice. And it's been exciting to see how many people have been involved in this process as we move forward to this election. And it's great. This is democracy. This is something that we want to see, quite frankly, because even though many of us are registered to vote, some of us don't vote when it's time to do that. And we need to make sure that we take the right of a citizen in the United States of America and actually vote. If you're going to be registered, you need to vote, you need to be involved in the process. So that's been exciting for me to see, and energizing, and it's just been wonderful. On the flip side, this particular election and what has been happening in the school district and the school board has, to a certain extent, polarized our community, because we're kind of a us and them sort of thing. We have the folks that support this, and we have the folks that support this side. And I don't want to honestly see that divide our community any further than perhaps it has already been divided. We will have to work together after this election, no matter who wins, quite frankly, and we need to solve any differences that we have, because in order to move forward as a community, in order to make the school district better, we have to work together, and we have to be open to communication from either side, because again, not everybody, there's not one person in this room that has all the answers. I don't have all the answers, no one sitting here does. So we have to come together with possibilities and decide what's best to move forward. So I hope that's what we can do.
The great thing about the United States, well, one of the many great things, I was actually raised overseas, and I grew up for a few years behind the Iron Curtain. And it was really interesting to see what that was like versus what we have here in the United States. And coming back here, kids have a tendency to say stuff like, "Oh, it's a free country." Well, it really wasn't. Where in some of the places that I grew up, and so I appreciate the discourse that's out there, and I appreciate the folks that are willing to stand up and say, "I believe in this." And so I feel like there's a lot of dialogue going on out there that, whether the dialogue itself is productive or not, the fact that we're having that dialogue is really, really awesome. Because I think we need to have a lot of these discussions. People have thoughts, people have ideas, and that needs to be out there in the public square. So I think that's good. I want to see that, and I've always
been a person who has reached out to different people from different points of view and said, I want to know what you think and let's work together. And some of those folks are here tonight, and I appreciate that as well. So I developed a reputation for reaching out to folks that believe differently than I do and working with them to effect some sort of resolution, some sort of action. So I just want to thank everybody for being part of this process. Even you just coming here tonight is participation and it's informing yourself and listening to what everybody has to say. So I thank you very much for that, and I think that I'm looking forward to more of that as the election season goes on. Thank you.
Yeah, I think increasing the franchise is healthy. I think involvement by people is healthy. I think involvement by the union is healthy. I think involvement by parent organizations is healthy. I think involvement by the parties is healthy. What it does is it brings people into the process. They look at the issues and they decide how they're going to cast their vote. I don't know who I would tell not to be involved in that. I can't say, gee, I wish this group wasn't involved. Or I can't tell people that they shouldn't share their sort of political point of view. I mean, we all have one. I'm a Republican. I've been one for going back to when I was in college. That influences me. I'm a conservative first, a Republican second, but that influences the decision I make. It influences how I look at things. It leads me to believe that I think bringing decision-making and power down to a more local level is better than if I'm sitting in a board meeting in Castle Rock making that decision. I think my view is you need to find the right level of decision maker for each decision. We did that in school-based budgeting. We think that the principals and parents who go to that school are in the best position to make specific choices about their school. We let them do that. So I think it's the more people that are involved in the process, the healthier the process is. And I can't think of anybody who I would tell not to be involved in the race. If you're an eligible voter, get involved. Get involved in the way that best suits you and cast your vote. One of the great things about American democracy is we get together, there's votes cast, and we abide by that. Everybody up here is going to abide by whatever decision you make. It's something you don't see in a lot of the countries that we might see on TV lately, and that's a good thing. Thanks.
I would agree, provided that the information that is shared is based on fact. I believe employee groups are important. I believe parent groups are very important. I believe political parties are important. I believe the union voice is important. And those people maybe have not always had their place at the table. And I don't think that's right. I believe this board has done more pushing information out. If we just keep beating you with it enough, you're going to buy it. And I don't think that's the way it should work. Sure, they should push information out. But where is the ability to pull information back in? And I think that's where the board has failed to listen to all the voices that Doug talks about. So I would advocate that that's exactly what we do. Whether you're in the union, which political party you're a member of, what employee group, what parents group that you're interested in, I don't believe all those voices are being heard, as I have said before. So are they healthy? Yes. But they need to be listened to and not excluded.
Well, so politics, what a funny thing, huh? I've been an unaffiliated voter for maybe all of my life. I may have been a Republican for a really short time when I got out of college, but then decided that I really needed to be an informed voter, and I needed to consider different viewpoints in making my decisions, and I felt that that was important for me to remain neutral so I could analyze each and every point and candidate and think about what made sense, what was right for that particular thing. I think the thing that we need to talk about here, and we're losing sight of in this election, is what is best for kids. My child has had to witness things that I never thought she would have to witness because I chose to run for my local school board. I think that's unfortunate. I think that the politics, that part of it, is very unfortunate. I believe that we should all be involved, but we should be doing it in a respectful and meaningful manner. I think we should have a board that has differing opinions on it so that we can have discourse, because through discourse, you come up with the best solution. And I think that we owe it to our children to all push aside our political agendas and ideals to make the right decision for every child in this school district. Thank you.
Community involvement in our schools is something that I think many of us have been working towards for quite a number of years. Now, I can remember 4.5 years ago when I went to my very first board meeting. It was the board, it was the staff, and there might have been 3 of us there that weren't somehow directly involved in that. Since then, I've been to board meetings that have been held in high schools and in middle schools where we literally filled all auditoriums with hundreds of people. I think that it's really important that we have that community involvement and that we have input from all parts of our community. Not just those that are directly involved in our schools, but those that help to pay for our schools. That's 70% of our community that doesn't have children in our school district. I think that we need to figure out how to have good, productive conversations with each other. Discourse is great, but it needs to be productive in the long run. We need to be able to share ideas. We need to learn to listen to each other just a little bit better. And I know that's really hard because when you're passionate about something, when you're excited about something, you want to share your side of the story. So we need to take turns sharing our side of the story and being better listeners with each other while trying to involve as many people as we can in our schools.
Barbara.
Hey, I have a confession. I am a Bronco fan, so I hope that's okay. That's a part of your relation. So I would agree with Julie that politics polarizes people. God love us all, but it just does. And so when you have a party affiliation, it's going to impact how you view the student and the kid. And I think that's detrimental. I actually naively thought, I went to the Douglas County GOP interviews, because I naively thought, oh great, I'm unaffiliated. I will meet with the Republicans, and then I will meet with the Democrats, and then I will march around this county. And I thought that they were going to say, hey, great, here's a list of 10 people that makes Republicans be involved in this. You know, think are great, hey. I didn't know that they were only going to be one in my district, so that was an eye-opener for me. And so I think it's important to separate the two so that, again, the child always stays, the student always stays first. So I've personally been endorsed by the Douglas County educators. I have been endorsed by the Douglas County Parents Group. I've also been endorsed by Steve Boland, a longtime Republican county commissioner, because of my fiscal conservativeness. So I love everybody, and I want to take in all the views so that, again, we're always thinking of those cute little kids, and we're making sure that our decisions are driven always by what's best for them.
You know, all of us in this room should agree with me that one of our greatest, at least perhaps the greatest societal obligations we have is to educate our children. And it is heartwarming and we're blessed that all of you are here tonight and that there is so much interest in this school board race. That we have opponents up here at the table. All of us care very much about our kids. There's an interchange of ideas you're hearing. You know, I serve on the Board of Regents. There's 4 Democrats and 5 Republicans, and quite honestly, 2 or 3 of my best friends are Democrats. And we, but you know, in the process of the dialogue and the debates, we often find common ground. And that common ground is solid ground that we can then move something forward and make a change for the better. And I'm not talking about Democrats or Republicans as much as in this setting, talking about our teachers and our administrators. And they have their own opinions, they have their own biases. We've heard some concerns raised today. And I am of a mindset that it's very important that we listen carefully to what they have to say, process that, and do the best we can to find the common ground with these folks. It's a good process. There's nothing wrong with some division, in my view, as long as we're working to find a solution that's best, in this case, for our children. You know, I remember the days when I'd get a day off and I'd come home and think, I get to watch this football game. My wife would say, well, no, we're going to the PTA meeting. And I go, what? And we go to the PTA meeting, I'd sit there and they'd talk about the spring social and you know, the pretty mundane stuff. And slowly but surely that school system, I think, was deteriorating because there wasn't this rich interchange and this excitement of concern for our kids. But you have it here in Douglas County, you really do. And it's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, time for what we're calling the lightning round. And the way Dr. Stewart suggested we do this is I will pose a handful of questions to you. If your answer is yes to the question, raise your hand, hold it up for a few minutes. If your answer is no, keep your hands on the table. And like a good teacher with a new thing, Dr. Stewart suggested I try a couple of practice questions. The first of which is, do you believe it will snow tomorrow? Okay. And the second question is, do parents pay tuition at charter schools? Okay, I think we've got it done. So we'll hop quickly then through the real questions. Do you agree with the board's resolution that opposes Amendment 66?
Unfair question, just saying no, unfair question.
No, I know we talked about that. Okay, second question. Do you believe that basing 50% of a teacher's evaluation on academic growth is unfair to teachers? Okay, third question. If elected or re-elected to the board, would you support the superintendent's continued employment beyond June 2014, knowing that the current contract runs until June 2015?
Not enough information to answer.
Yeah, I agree.
This is exactly what the issue was with this. There's not enough information.
Well, and we did talk about that, and you've expressed your views, so.
And these are the type of decisions, by the way, we make on the board. They're difficult decisions. They're ones where there are opposed.
Part of the intent of the lightning round, quite frankly, was to not have any. So we'll move on to the next question.
The reason it's unfair is because we don't have the same knowledge. Those of us who are not currently on the board don't have that knowledge. So it's not about, it's really not about what it takes.
Well, next one. Do you believe that the rollout and implementation of the district's world-class education plan has not been managed well by district leadership? Okay.
It was a little confusing.
Dr. Sue and I will take responsibility for that. Do you believe the district's merit-based compensation plan and market-based pay is a better system than the traditional step and level salary system for teachers?
None of the above, a better system,
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Julie.
Finally, is the district holding too much money in its current fund balance? Okay. I told you it was a lightning round, it was fast. So again, closing statements, everyone has a minute for these, a minute each. I think we will start the closings with District D in alphabetical order, and then move to B and back around this, and take one with the gentleman in District D. So,
I feel like I have to go first.
So there's not, much more to say. You've heard a lot. There's really a lot more to say that we haven't talked about tonight, because there's so many things to talk about, so many great things that we can do to make our school district better and excellent again. And I'd like to see us do that. I'd like to see us support our schools in every way we possibly can, not having a political agenda, not deciding that as a board member I know best. I believe that I have to listen to my constituents to understand what's best for our community, what's best for our schools. I would vow to do that, and I would do as much as possible to get the public input back into the school district. That is a very important thing. I am very fiscally responsible, so don't think that I'm going to waste money. I don't waste money. But I also believe in educating children now that are in our system now. And so we must balance those two things. So thank you very much. Please vote for me, Julie Heim, candidate D, or just candidate for District D. Thank you. Candidate D, yeah. I maybe could.
First and foremost, I believe we've got to put our kids first and make sure that what is best for them is always first and foremost in our minds when we're dealing with education issues. If I work on the board, the thing that I would make sure that I do is that I make sure that I would work with all of our stakeholders to make sure that we have those choices and those opportunities available for all of our children. I think that we need to be also, as board members, very good stewards of the tax dollars that are provided to us for that education for our children. I think that that's very important, that we be open and honest about how that money is being spent and what our priorities are, and let the people closest to our children be the primary decision makers about those tax dollars. I would ask that you would vote for me, Judy Reynolds, District D. Thank you.
so Barbara.
I believe my credentials working with the Douglas County School District since 2005 in the parent-teacher groups and training so many of them. Having two kids that are currently in Douglas County schools, both the middle schools and high schools, my commitment to Douglas County, as well as I agree with Dr. Geddes that discourse and having a difference on the board. So where we have all 7 right now that are of similar mindset, I am a very individual thinker, and I will provide discourse and banter, being unaffiliated. So I think that's a differentiator in and of itself. I'm not beholden to a political party. I'm not beholden to the union. I have not accepted dollars from any kind of organization, and I want to reverse the decline of our state assessment scores and bring back our accreditation with distinction honor. So again, I'm Barbara Chase, District B. Yes, that's B for Barbara. Thank you. Sorry.
Is my timer on? Have I said anything about pay for performance? Oh, wait. No. Again, this is exciting. I'm very excited about the Douglas County School District and all the headway they've made over the last 4 or 5 years. It really is leading this country in education reform. No question about that. There's some kinks to work out. You've heard about some of them. I agree. We got to focus on those kinks. We've got to get the teachers more involved, have them take ownership of this project we're on to improve our children's education. Stewardship, right now this is the most efficient school district in the metropolitan area help you do that. We got to continue to make sure every penny the taxpayers have given us is well spent. And in that regard, I can pledge to you that I will focus very much on that issue and also on the improvement of the quality of education in our students' classrooms. Thank you.
Yes. Rhonda.
Wasn't sure if you were going in. As a community, we're all in this together. I mean, this is our public school system. Whether it thrives or whether it's a decline is something that we all should be concerned about, whether it's happening here or at the school down the street. And I was looking at the woman back there holding the baby. A girl. Yeah, a girl, okay. My older son just got married a couple of weekends ago, so soon I'll be a grandmother, I think, at some point in time soon. And then they live in Douglas County, and so I'll have a grandchild that will call me grandmother, which is quite a thing to think about when you're, I don't feel that old, but so I have a stake again, or we'll have soon a real stake in this school district, like I did when my boys were going to school. And so that's my concern going forward is what's happened here. And I want to reverse the declines that I'm seeing, the cuts to the resources, the cuts in the classroom. But I also want to hear from you guys. I want to bring the community in. Because while the district calls you a customer, I want to call you a partner. And that's why I hope you'll vote for me, Wanda Schulte in District G.
I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. I appreciate you giving up your time and coming in here to the uncertainty of whether you're going to go out and find a car covered with snow. Let's hope not. I think that we've got a great dialogue here tonight. I appreciate the fact that I have had the opportunity and the privilege to be on the board for the last 4 years and facilitate a partnership with you. I don't know what's best. My job is to facilitate choices for parents and to help them get their child into the best educational environment possible and put the best teacher possible in front of them, in front of that child. So I thank you all for the privilege of doing that for the past 4 years, and I would ask for your support in doing that for the next 4 years. I want to thank you again for coming this evening, and I'm always open. My door is open to you for any questions or concerns or ideas you might have. I'll stick around afterward if you want to come chat. Megan Silverthorne, District G, thank you so much.
Dr. Mendel.
Also, thank you for coming, and I'd like to thank my wife for staying the whole time with my stepfather. I open questions, frankly. My commitment is to do the next 4 years what I've done in the first 4 years, which is to sort of meet the choice that is out there, meet what the demands are from the parents. We knew there was a charter demand. We increased the number of charter schools, and enrollment went up dramatically. We have worked with Hope Online and other schools like DC Oaks that are schools of second, third, and sometimes fourth chance for students. We've done that because we're a wealthy district and we have an obligation to do so. And in doing that, what we did is we did, as Barbara said, give up our accreditation with the station because those schools do bring down our academic level. Our other high schools are well above it. But we do serve those students because we have an obligation to do so, and we should stop using them as political footballs.
I'm a social moderate and a fiscal conservative, and I don't believe that you can put kids first when you put teachers last. I believe board meetings should be conducted in open session. I believe we need to reduce class sizes. We need to hire more teachers. We need to increase graduation requirements so our kids can compete. We need to increase instructional time. The pay for performance program currently needs to be suspended until the bugs can be worked out of it. We are in a talent war for retention of our best and brightest, and we need to make sure we keep who we have. Results are down for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th on the latest results. We need to figure out why and make corrective action immediately. Turnover is 12%. Doesn't tell you who left. Numbers don't mean anything. who left. And the TEL survey also tells you the number of people and teachers who were thinking about leaving the district. That's not right either. Bill Hodges, District E.
Thank you all. Let's have a big hand.